Lucid dreamers have been fighting goblins and conjuring galaxies in their dreams for centuries, all the while feeling awake and engaged in the action. Now, scientific research tells us that lucid dreaming isn't just the stuff of sci-fi. It's actually a learnable skill. Welcome back to Savvy Psychologist. I'm your host, Dr. Jade Wu. Every week, I'll help you meet life's challenges with evidence-based research, a sympathetic ear, and zero judgment. Today, we walk through scientifically tested techniques for learning how to lucid dream. Last week, we opened up the world of lucid dreaming, an ancient but scientifically measurable practice that gives a dreamer the power to manipulate their dreams. We took a candid, scientific look at the sci-fi sounding concept, and it turns out that neuroscientists have not only been able to measure lucid dreaming in the brain, but even to hold two-way communication with the lucid dreamer in real time. In an astonishing study published just this year, one lucid dreamer was fighting goblins while correctly answering the question coming from the sky, what is 6 minus 2? And he did it all while staying asleep. Now, this study got me so excited about lucid dreaming that I decided to give this a try myself this past week. Just a little spoiler, it wasn't easy, but on the fourth night of my self-study, I did manage to have a brief lucid moment just as I disembarked from a skyboat onto a long slide made of clouds. Right when I was doing this, I suddenly became aware that I was dreaming. And so I concentrated really hard on this knowledge and told myself to fly, and it worked. I soared through the sky until I woke up just a few moments later. So how did I do it? Today, let's walk through the scientifically documented methods for cultivating lucid dreaming. Now, before we jump in, a reminder that some researchers have raised concerns about lucid dreaming, including the possibility that it could disrupt overall sleep quality if a person does it too often. There's also a concern that frequent lucid dreaming could blur the lines between reality and dream, increasing the risk for psychosis or dissociation. Now, more research is still needed to fully understand these potential risks, and for now, let's just say everything in moderation seems like a good mantra. And if you're at risk for psychosis, or if you're prone to feeling detached from your body or reality, you should check with your doctor before trying to lucid dream. Now, if you're feeling ready, let's get started. So tip number 1 is to start by keeping a dream logbook. Dream researchers have known for a long time that people who generally remember their dreams more often are also more likely to lucid dream. So to set the table for our lucid dreaming program, we can begin by getting into a more dream-aware mindset overall. So how can we remember our dreams more often? Well, simply by paying attention and noting them down. You can go as far as keeping a detailed dream journal that describes your dreams with as much detail as possible, or simply making a habit of giving a little title to any dreams you have and recording how much of this dream you remember upon waking. In one study, using either of these methods for a week significantly increased the number of dreams that people remembered. So this is a really good place to start. Now, while you're working on becoming aware of your dreams, you can also start to plant the idea of lucid dreaming in your mind. And so this is tip number 2. You don't have to tiptoe around the idea of lucid dreaming, treating your mind as if being too forward about your goal will somehow spook it away. It's not like in the movie Inception where you have to sneak in and plant the idea. Instead, you can simply suggest to yourself at bedtime, hey, let's have a lucid dream. Better yet, you can take a small step further and practice having the intention to become lucid while dreaming. Do this by imagining as vividly as possible the moment you become aware that you're dreaming. You can do this while you're in bed and relaxed, just before falling asleep, or even when you're waking up during the night to use the bathroom. Before you close your eyes again to go back to sleep, just tell yourself, I am going to remember to wake up during my dream. I'm going to remember to become aware. Just don't get too fired up with doing this mind experiment to the point of keeping yourself awake and giving yourself insomnia. Now, if keeping a dream log and planting lucid dreaming seeds in your mind doesn't work right away, don't get discouraged. You can keep building on your lucid dreaming skills during the day using the reality testing and reflection method. And that is tip number 3. When you're awake, you know you're awake, right? Hopefully there's no doubt about that. But you can still ask yourself, am I awake or am I dreaming? You can pair this reflection with a reality test. Let's say pinching your nose and trying to breathe, or trying to jump up and fly, or asking your toddler to put away his toys nicely. Any quick action to see if you're dreaming. When you get your mind into the habit of verifying reality during the day, it's more likely to do a spontaneous reality check during a dream. So if you suddenly find yourself able to breathe through a pinched nose, or your toddler is perfectly cleaning his play area with no complaints, you'll know you're dreaming. Now let's talk about timing. Lucid dreams, like any other dreams, almost always happen during rapid eye movement sleep. That's REM sleep for short. And REM sleep mostly happens during the morning hours. So if you're making a concentrated effort to induce lucid dreaming, you may be able to give yourself a boost by waking yourself up early in the morning using some lucid dreaming techniques and then going back to sleep. One researcher, Stephen LaBerge, documented his lucid dreaming efforts for 3 years during the 1970s. By the last few months of his experiment, he was averaging about 1 lucid dream per night, sometimes up to 4 per night. He found that his sweet spot for trying to lucid dream was to wake himself about half an hour to 2 hours earlier than usual, staying awake for about half an hour to an hour, and then going back to bed with an intention to become lucid when he was very likely to fall back into REM sleep. If done well, this technique seems to be very effective. Using LaBerge's technique, one recent study was able to produce lucid dreams in 10 out of 20 participants within just 2 nights in the sleep lab. They amplified the method by asking participants to use their waking period in the wee morning hours to journal about any dreams they already had, and then to pick out elements in the dream that were particularly surreal, almost to train themselves to recognize what is dreamlike before they go back to sleep. But here's a caveat. I would advise against using this technique if you have insomnia or otherwise don't get enough sleep. Waking yourself up on purpose too close to the morning can simply cut short your much-needed sleep. And tip number 5 is that external cues can help you to lucid dream, but there's a caveat. Researchers have used light, sound, touch, and even electrical stimulation during REM sleep to signal to a dreamer that they're dreaming. These cues, like light flashes or specific sounds, need to be strong enough to penetrate the dream and reach the dreamer, yet not strong enough to totally wake them up. But this technique works best if you're in a sleep lab. At home, it will be difficult to time the signals perfectly to catch you while you're in REM sleep, and hard to know what kind of signal would perfectly cue you to become lucid without waking you up. So if you happen to have access to a sleep lab and neuroscientists who are willing to stay up all night to monitor your signals, go ahead and give that a try if you'd like. But it may be easier to simply practice reality testing and focusing your intention on becoming aware in a dream. These are the most straightforward and time-tested methods. So, what do you think? Think you can harness your dreams? I must say that I was skeptical myself, but now that I've gotten a taste of lucid dreaming, just for one glorious moment of flying through the rolling clouds, I am a little bit curious to try more. After all, who knows what's possible when there's no gravity, no anxiety, and no boundaries to limit us. Thank you so much for listening. I'm really curious to hear what you have to think about lucid dreaming and about the idea of trying to do it yourself. Have you been able to succeed? Have you tried it before? Are you trying it now? Let's continue the conversation on social media. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter. I'm at QDT Savvy Psych and also at Jade Wu PhD. We can also keep in touch through the Savvy Psychologist newsletter. Sci-fi Psychologist is audio engineered by Steve Rickerberg and edited by Karen Hertzberg. As always, Sci-fi Psychologist is strictly for informational purposes and doesn't substitute for mental health care from a licensed professional. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week for a happier, healthier mind.